Hey, great big hello from Ottawa. This is the Sylvain Rochon, the peaceful revolutionary. Last week I gave a 30-minute talk about the potential of the total global economic breakdown and some links about how technology is affecting the job market, and the whole economy is based on the job market and cash flow and having jobs, the economy, and then the technology essentially removing jobs as it goes along without creating new jobs, just like compared to what we've seen historically over the hundreds of years that our current economy, job-based economy, has been operating. So a new economy has to come out. Now, one of the difficulties when there is a change like this, which is significant, because our whole system, our whole lives are is based on our jobs. Like when we wake up, we go to work or go to our business, our place of business, whatever it is, and we spend 8, 10 days doing that. We come back home and we have a routine. Our whole lives surround about us receiving money and spending the money. I mean, that's the whole thing. Now, if that goes away because of there's just not enough jobs to support that kind of economy, we get into a situation similar to the Great Depression in 1929, where a whole bunch of people, I think it's over 30% of the population, didn't have any job. They were jobless for a while, or a certain amount of time. Not necessarily the whole 10 years of the aforementioned Great Depression, but each individual in person was, for a while having some trouble, and that created a lot of panic. There was not a lot of power with the dollar. Fewer people had the means to actually make money. People were scrambling for jobs. It was a desperate time for a good amount of time. There was a lot of panic, especially initially when things really crashed and people were wondering, what am I going to do for food, to live? There was a lot more crime because of desperation and panic. Now, if we're going to go into a depression because of a big economic change where, like the Great Depression, a lot of jobs just necessarily just can't be had. You can't have a lot of people. I mentioned in my last video last week, like in the States, currently there's 6% of the population that are jobless, which is very good unemployment rate. There's 12% of the population right now and increasing that are underemployed. They're having part-time jobs, which is not enough to make a living, to pay the rent and pay for food. So you have 15% of the whole population of the US that are on food stamps because they can't eat. They're not making enough money to eat or to have their family to eat. This is getting worse year after year, month after month in the US. When things crash, it's going to get worse. The unemployment rate and the underemployment rate is going to increase drastically, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50%, maybe 100% more. And what's going to happen is going to be some panic. And I'll get to the panic part, how to prepare for that, because that's really the killer. That's really how people can lose their lives, can get in really bad state of mind and do things they wouldn't do normally, like crime, theft. Like if your little girls are hungry, haven't eaten in 2, 3 days, parents do stuff they wouldn't do otherwise, and they'll possibly steal if they can't get help from neighbors that are also having the same problems. So anyway, how can we get prepared right now without freaking out and going into a cave and isolating yourselves with guns and like the movies? No, I'm not talking about that. We're reasonable people. There's ways to be a little bit prepared without spending a lot of money, just in case things go a certain way, so that if things go a little bit bad, or gets a little bit worse, you and your family are taking care of it in a reasonable way. You don't panic, and ultimately, and even better, you can help others that aren't as prepared as you get through that transitional period where systems kind of clash and people don't know what to do, and there's a bunch of problems potentially. So let me go through a few tips. This is like just preparatory tips, and these tips are good no matter what. Like whether things go bad or they go smoothly, good investments in time and money, and almost no money, by the way. First thing, you got to have a home, like the basics, right? You got to have a home. We'll assume that you have a place to stay, and that's going to stay. Because normally, just like in 2008, if things go really bad, the banks run after their money. They want to recover the mortgages and the houses. People can just squat there, kind of stay there, especially if it's more of a global thing. I mean, there's really little that anybody's going to want to do. Even the law enforcement officers will want to take care of their own families. They won't be out there trying to evict a whole bunch of people so much. I don't think. But it's good to own your own home. That's the ideal situation, or a condo. So you own the property, or you own some land, like real estate. If you don't, if you rent, a lot of people are renting. You should make some kind of arrangement with other family members that do own, and you can share space with others, at least for a while, just in case. Kind of talk about it. If things go a little bit weird, maybe some people have a cottage. You can make a sharing services in exchange for potential cottage space, perhaps, so you can crash in case things are really terrible. Just so that you have a roof over your head, you don't end up on the street. Really, that's the point, right? Secondly, about food, really important. There's really cool things you can do about food. Because if things go a certain way with the economy crashing, there's a chance that transportation of food is going to break down. So the farmers are still making food. They're growing in the fields. They may pick it up. They have to do it for themselves anyway. But the food may not end up on your plate because they're not brought to the cities, for example, or this central distribution areas, at least for a while. Potentially. Again, this is all maybes. It's just to be prepared. Okay. That means there's going to be not enough food to move around. Maybe you have difficulty having money to buy food. So how do you do that? How do you help preventing that problem for yourself and your family? Well, try to have canned goods for about 3 months worth of time. Just buy them over time. Don't eat them up. Just put them in the cupboard in the basement or some safe space where they can be stored. And that should be sufficient. At least you don't get into panic mode if things go a little bit terrible, and you probably have food you can share with others and share resources instead of having just nothing and depending on the store that may not receive any food in the first place. Second thing you can do very easily is you can have a garden. Even if you're in the city, it's very easy to have just a few plants inside the house that have good light. It's super cheap to do. It's kind of fun. It's organic. The kids will love it because you're growing life. You can have a few tomato plants, maybe some potatoes. You don't need to buy all sorts of stuff. You can get good soil relatively cheaply or from outside in the country. If you're in Canada or in the States, you can get good soil. Seeds are very easy to come by, really inexpensive, and you can use just buckets with holes, and there's a bunch of resources online on how to do that yourself, literally dollars away from having really cool plants and herbs that you can grow yourself on your balconies inside your homes. And you can have really cool, and these are awesome to eat. So whether or not things are going to go awry or not, you're going to love the experience. It's not difficult to be green thumb. Bunch of resources that can help you online on that. So that's a really good thing. The third part of the basics is energy, especially us. We're in Canada. It gets kind of cold in winter, and in the States as well as many states where it gets pretty cold in northern states. You need electricity. You need some form of energy to keep things heated. Again, in case there's a problem with transportation of energy like oil, fuel, and even electricity kind of going down because people don't want to go to work if there's no job available and automation is not set in place yet. There's a transitionary period that may be rough. So you may not have electricity for a long time. We may end up with a situation like they have in a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, South America, where there's rotating burnouts, like where electricity is not provided 24/7 like we have here. It's normal in a lot of countries. Here we used to have 24/7 electricity availability. In a lot of countries, they have planned times where electricity is just not there, or it's just surprise today, no electricity. Every couple of days, there's like a few hours where there's no electricity, and that's the government shutting it off because there's not enough fund for it, or there's a problem somewhere, they have to shut it down. That's very normal in less developed countries. So we may get into that situation just because of a variety of reasons. Now, the best way to go around that is to generate your own electricity, which again is super simple to do. It's more difficult than growing your own food, mind you, but there's a lot of resources online where you can make eolian power, which is wind turbines, wind turbine power. And if you're not as technologically inclined or less mechanically inclined, you can buy some of the pieces for that for about $500. You can buy entire systems for more than that. And if you're more of a mechanic and you know rotors and electricity and car batteries, you can make it your own just from the scrapyard, getting a few pieces there and convert it for electricity. And with one turbine reasonably placed, doesn't need to be super high, just in the wind, you can provide electricity, normal electricity for heating and your appliances for one home with a blade that's about 2 to 4 feet in diameter. So not a huge blade spinning in the wind. And if one person in your neighborhood now knows how to do it, then we can help each other to make this wind energy happen. So you don't depend on the grid for your electricity and especially your heating. You can prepare by adapting your roofs with solar power. And what's really neat with solar power, especially now that things haven't gone too bad yet, I mean, it's just in a recession right now, is there are programs, I know in Ontario where I am, there's a program where the government actually provides money to private firms, private solar energy firms, to convert your whole roof into solar power grids. And they cover your roof essentially with solar panels, costing about it costs a total of about $20,000 for a reasonably sized roof. Money that you don't pay. It's the government that pays it in Ontario if you join that program. And the company sets it up. It's all part of a green program here in Ontario. That's why it's a little special. But maybe in your province or in your state you have something similar. You can research that on the web, and they install solar panels on your roof, and it provides clean green energy as an initiative back into the grid. So you're generating electricity for your home, but also the electricity company is buying your energy from you. And I believe, I'm going by memory here, the money from a standard home where there's about $20,000 investment into the solar panels themselves and maintenance, you can get somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 per month in return electricity costs. Now, in the case of a depression, when it goes into a Great Depression where the economy kind of crashes and things go really bad, you don't really depend on the buyback from the grid, because that may have been in failing mode for a little while. But the point is, though, is that you're generating a lot of energy for your own home, and very, very simply, you can connect other houses in your neighborhood to your solar panel grid. So you can have your own little neighborhood grid for quite a few houses and provide energy for a bunch of people. And essentially, that program, if you're accepted into the program with the right house and roof and a government program, you can get into that today and it won't cost you anything. And maybe in some cases, I think they charge you for the inspection, maybe $1,000 or something like that up front for the evaluation of your home and whatnot. But the program itself is it's totally handled by the government. And different states and different provinces may have a different kind of program with that. But I know in In the southern states of the U.S., there are some programs that are available. Some states and a few provinces, at the very least, they have this money for green initiatives like that. So solar power can be a great advantage right now while it's available, and you can make sure that you and your neighborhood has energy if things go terribly wrong. Why not? Good thing either way. Third thing is water power, and this is less considered because in cities you don't have access to running water very easily. But if you plan on weathering things out at a cottage, usually there's a small stream or a small river you can tap into, and the same principles and basically the same equipment in a nutshell as the wind power, but the turbine is activated by little spoons or little paddles that are connected to a rotor. So instead of spinning the rotor to generate electricity because of the wind power, it's the wind, it's the water that kind of flows, and you can adapt any kind of flow of water that is regular to spinning that rotor in that turbine and generate a reasonable amount of electricity, enough for the cottage so that your home and family is full of electricity and heated and whatnot. And if you're at a cottage, even better. Usually there's wood around, so you can burn wood for heat. So great for winter, and you don't need as much electricity. So that's really cool. So those are the basics, kind of survival to be comfortable and keeping the same lifestyle, staying at home, even if you don't work. You just need extra food, maybe a little bit of meat and that kind of thing to supplement that food that you have, because it's emergency food, what I described, not necessarily, unless you have a really big land, you can have a huge garden. You don't have enough, especially in winter. Indoor food probably won't be able to grow enough, especially if you don't plan it like a maniac. Like this is just a planning a little bit just in case. So you probably have a little garden, a few plants, right? Um, so you will be able to do a little bit of work, get a little bit of money, or spend a little bit of money to get extra food, but at least you're taken care of, and you got energy and time to deal with other people. To help out your community, and that brings me to the point of psychology. In cases like this, like your worst enemy is panic. Everybody's worst enemy is panic. Panic is caused by fear, of course, fear of not being able to eat or not feeding your children or your husband or your wife, like the people you care about. Usually, you don't really care so much about yourself, but more about the others around you. And you get into a panic mode, and you do things that you wouldn't normally do, things that other people will not enjoy, like stealing food from other people that already are in a hard place, breaking into places to have shelter, or stealing gasoline or electricity from another person because you want warmth. You want to have the basics to survive and to live in a certain with a certain basic survival state, right? Um, so we need to talk about this now. This is why I'm doing a couple of videos on this topic. I'm getting it out of the way. People can refer to my blog or my video very easily, and read about it and do a lot of research on the different elements that I discuss to get prepared. So having information already prepares you to not be fearful of it, because you're mentally prepared for this possibility. And once again, I'm going to repeat myself. I'm not a doomsday guy. I'm just being realistic. I've done the research. I've read a lot of economists from MIT, from a lot of people, from the futurists. And this is where we're heading. I have no idea how it's going to transit, but it seems like there's a gap. And historically, when there's a gap like that, there's usually a set time where there's panic. And I want people to avoid being in a panicky. To be prepared is the best way, so that you're not afraid. And the least people that are afraid, the less crime is going to be. The better the transition we're going to be to something better, because I believe that is going to lead to a way better system, what we typically call a leisure-based society at the end of the line, which is terrific. But we have to transit towards that, which still, like from an old system to a new system. So information is key. So read up about all these things. Be prepared. If you make a garden, Save up canned good, prepare for electricity. What do you do for electricity, for energy and heating if the total system, the grid itself goes down? Maybe you don't even have internet access anymore. So it's better to be prepared beforehand. We don't know. Most likely we won't have to deal with all this stuff. Better to be prepared a little bit, at least in your mind. And finally, in my opinion, the last point would be how to deal with other people that are not prepared like you guys will be, that will be panicking. My recommendation is cooperation is way better than sitting defensively in your home with a shotgun, because that's just going to engender more violence. People, when they get together and things are not so hot, they end up with a lot of good solutions and everybody can live better. So it's better to work as a community and as groupings of families and neighborhoods, to protect each other, to divvy out information, share the food, share the energy, share the homes, and take people in, even strangers, help each other, and that's going to make it a lot easier for everybody. And really, there is really no need for any of this to happen. If things go bad and you see that your job is obsolete and you won't get paid, and for example, let's say you're a trucker that generally brings foods from the farms to the city. As I'm using that as an example because it illustrates a point really well. Well, to help the community, you should continue going to work, so to speak, so that the food does go to town. So if everybody actually keeps doing what they're supposed to be doing, that they used to do every day, the systems are still going to be upkept. Things still are going to work. No systems are going to break down or come down. Now, we can't really depend on everybody being ready for that in their minds and kind of thinking that way, but I'm putting the idea in your mind right now. Keep doing what you're supposed to be doing as part of the community and society, and everybody's going to keep getting what they're supposed to do, even if you're doing it for free. You're giving a service to the rest of the society, and everybody is doing the same thing. And that's really, in a way, that's really the future of society without jobs. We need people to do stuff. Either, people or machines do the things that need to be done so that everybody's provided for. So we can't go cold turkey. Oh, I don't have a job. I'm not going to work. It doesn't affect you as much as it affects everybody else. The whole system depends on a whole bunch of people doing things and a whole bunch of machines doing things. And between the time where you're doing your work and it's replaced by a robot, because you're not being paid anymore, for example, that takes a little bit of time. And there's people that need to actually set these up. So we'll need to essentially say, okay, at a certain point, my idea here is, if everything goes really bad and the economy is going to crash, or we see that it is going, we need to have a talk as a country and as a world. Say, okay, look it, we need to continue doing whatever we are doing so that the whole machine keeps running properly for everybody. Nobody's goes into panic mode, anything like that. Nobody's getting paid anymore, but everybody gets what they're supposed to get, and everybody gets the basic. That's it. Everybody's gets the basic, no matter what. We make sure everybody gets education, health system stays up. Everybody keeps doing their job, and at the same time, we have a subset of individuals that see how we can automate a whole bunch of these things, and gradually, people do less work. They can work lower hours and eventually not work anymore at all, for the most part, because automated systems take over. So things keep flowing without the human intervention being absolutely necessary, because jobs have been replaced with robots and AI and technology that require fewer and fewer individuals to supervise. And then we do get into a leisure-based society where you don't need to work to live anymore, yet still get the basics plus entertainment and everything else. So this transition, to me, that's the best way to transit. I can't control just about everybody. So I'm just spreading the word right now. How do you protect yourself from if things really go bad? There's simple things, cost very little money or no money at all, and it's fun, and it's stuff you can do together really good. And how do you avoid the panic and the bad situation is keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, and let's work together to transit to replace the human being workers with robotic workers and computers and artificial intelligence. So that'll be it for now. I'm going to still write a blog, insert this video into the blog as well. Hopefully you'll have fun doing a little bit of research. Please don't panic. Everything's good. Right now, it's not happening for now. But be prepared for the worst. It's simple to do. And be informed, especially be informed. Make sure you have the information you need from various sources from the internet. If you guys want me to talk more about different specific elements of this, I will. But for now, there's other topics I'd like to talk about in the next few weeks. So I'll move on to other subjects, and I'll come back to this related, economy-related subject later on if people ask for it. So this is the peaceful revolutionary Sylvain Rochon, hoping you good health and have a good week. Ciao.